Ladies and gentlemen, we've got our next act coming up. Can we get that applause back in the room, please? And please welcome on stage, fantastic Patrick!
Very nice audience. Well, I've had a bad day. I really haven't had a bad day. They started making phone calls to my house. They weren't rude ones. There were people from here, and they said, "Get over because you're late." So I rushed around for an hour finding things, and I got halfway down the road, and I realised that my pants were falling down, which is embarrassing, even if you're only good. But what you do is you hold them like that and you walk like that. It's happened a few times, that's how I know what to do. But I said to the people, well, don't worry, I'll go on stage and I'll do that, I'll be alright. And I thought that was great, until I ordered a water. I thought I better order the water in case I look drunk. So I ordered the water, and I got it like that, and my pants fell down. And I thought, God almighty, how am I get them up? Because I thought the whole room had seen it. So, because I had these two things here, and it's like that. And I thought, there was a lot of laughter in there, so I don't know if anybody saw anything. Well, I hope they didn't. There's not much to see anyway. I don't know what to get worked up about. And there was another thing, there was that happened, and then I realised that they kept saying, we're going to do jokes about mental health. And I thought, I wouldn't talk about nothing about mental health. I didn't realise it was about mental health. It's funny how that thing escapes your mind, isn't it? I didn't connect it between the umbrella centre and that place and mental health. So I've got a stack of jokes on Churchill. You know Winston, don't you? Well, I think he had a few mental problems, didn't he? He was I didn't like him. Never liked the man. But I'll see if I can find a couple of jokes. Has anybody heard of Jimmy James?
Yeah.
Yeah, have you? That's great. That's great. He must be old. So Jimmy sounds like this. This is Jimmy. There's Eli Woods is there. Anyone heard of Eli Woods? Yeah. He died in 91. 10 years ago. But he's alright. And someone else here, but we forget about that one because there's only me and Eli's not here, so it's just me. So I said, Eli comes walking home, Eli says, "Hey, have you been putting it around the time, Barney?" And I says, "I'm Jimmy James." I've forgotten what I said. I know what I said. I said, "Why do you want to keep it a secret?" That's a good one, I like that. So Jimmy says, "Haven't I seen you somewhere before?" And Eli says, "I'm out of there now." And Jimmy says, "I didn't think I'd been in there." They're good now. Yeah, I love Jimmy James. His whole life seems to be consisted of this one sketch, a bit of which I've pinched. And he seemed to go around there telling the whole country this sketch. But I must tell you, I was going to tell you something, but I've already forgotten what I was going to tell you. But it was funny because I was in here. You know this one? Oh. I had a little nut tree, nothing would it bear, but a silver nutmeg and a golden bird. The King of Spain's daughter came to visit me, all for the sake of my little nut tree. Thank you. it's a convent school, and it was surrounded by girls around this big. I was that big, and they were all that big, surrounding me. And every time I turned around, one of them would punch me. I had problems with women. And then the nuns didn't like me anyway. But we learned that song, and even at that age, I said, there's strange, interesting words. And I looked it up a couple of days ago, and I found that it was about who I thought it would be, Catherine of Aragon, who was King Henry VIII's first wife. I don't think he actually killed her. But, and then it was first published in 1762. And I thought, that's just the sort of thing I heard it was. And it's really interesting. And I know you can see it's interesting because you're all laughing your heads off. But not really, because it's all right. It's all right. I had a little nutty. I've got about 20 songs here, so just take time. Because there's nothing else except you and Winston Churchill. So it's a bit of a dilemma. He is putting it answered on Blarney. Hey, oh, I've done that one, sorry. Oh, this is Churchill as well. I don't like Churchill, I hate the book. But that's just me. You can like him as much as you like. And he was walking along the corridor at night, drunk. He was always drunk. So as he was passed by, I think he was passed by Lady Astor, who was the first woman MP, which women will find that interesting. Well, one or two women will find that interesting. And Lady Astor said to him, Winston, you're drunk. And Winston replied, I may be drunk, Lady Astor, but in the morning I'll be sober. You are... You are ugly, I'm sorry, you are ugly, and in the morning you will still be ugly. Now I think that's a really nasty gag, and I should have in the bad light, because he was a bad man. Now most people these days say that it wasn't Lady Astor, it was, but anyone heard of Bessie? Yeah. I've got a statue in Lime Street Station. Go and look next time you're there. She was a great big woman. And people say these days that it was Lady Astor, there was Braddock in the Lady Astor part. And it just doesn't work out. Because Braddock would have flattened Churchill. Because she's a great big woman and she was scared of nobody. And she didn't like him because she was working class and he was upper class. So when you hear that story, it's Lady Astor who was of the same class as Winston, and it wasn't Braddock. So, check on the thing here. Lady laughter, lady laughter, I was going to say lady laughter therapy. Has anyone heard of laughter therapy? You're there. Well, I did a class in laughter therapy, and it was a failure. Thank you. I'll write that down now. It was a failure. That's a good gag. That's a failure. It was a failure because it was only taking place once a month. And the woman was Chinese. That's nothing to do with it. She's a nice woman, but she was Chinese. And you can mention it if you like. And what happens? I'm sorry what happened. The life, the humble man versus... So anyway, it failed, but it will not fail, they say. There's two things about laughter therapy, and it's very important to make notes as you talk, because this will change your life. If you get in a group and you go like this, and go around, warm up, and then what you do is you laugh and you go, That's a false laugh. A false laugh is all right, and a genuine laugh is all right. That's the key to it. Both laughs are all right. I always do, well, it doesn't even matter what I do, because I'm not very good at it anyway. But then where did that noise come from? Oh, I see, laughter. So it works either way. Look it up on the internet. But here's how you can do it at home. If you join a little club at 7 o'clock in the morning and go to your telephone and you get the right number, there's about 100 people laughing and you can join in. And it will change your life, so to say. And I believe them. The only reason I don't do it is I just don't get up at 7 in the morning. But otherwise, it would have changed my life years ago. And I wouldn't be such a boring old fart that I am now. Because laughter is the key medicine to this mental health business. You won't be good. But I just want to, is there anything else I want to say? There's a song which I quite like. I don't know how many songs I'm allowed to sing. Look at the caskets. Looking later. Isn't it grand, lads, to be bloody well dead? Let's not have a sniffle. Oh, let's have a bloody good cry. But always remember, the longer you live, the sooner you're going to die. I thought, if there's any song you can sing and get away with it, that's the one. And this is interesting. It's a Victorian song. It's Victorian, so they used to sing it in Victorian days. And that is interesting. But I've forgotten what the next line is. So that is interesting. Just hold on to that for a second. And it will change your life. Shouldn't be athlete. Oh, this is another horrible thing about Churchill. Churchill, somebody said Churchill is a good and a humble man. And Churchill says, well, he's got a lot to be humble about. I didn't like that neither, because I thought Churchill was better, and all the people here probably did, because he founded the welfare state. All Churchill thought he was out to win wars. Well, that's probably the truth of people. There's another thing that was complained about. When I came on, when the first guy came on, Dixie, I looked over there by there, and there was about 10 people taking photographs of me for the whole of Dixie for the whole of the time he was on. When John came on, he had a couple. When I came on, nobody. Yeah, that is sad.
Happy doing you there.
Well,
Look, smile.
Oh, thank you. That's only because I don't go to the umbrella centre there enough. You get blocked out if you don't come enough. That's right, Dixon's it well, and he runs the umbrella centre. Not the umbrella centre, somebody else runs it. He runs the men's group, which I don't go to, and they don't like it. They don't like it. One of them called to me and says, well, how do you go to the men's group? I said, well, I don't get up in the morning. He said, oh, all right, then I'll look it up. So be fun to go now. Anyways, it's my sign off. I can go off another line.
Patrick! Patrick, ladies and gentlemen, come on, big hand. Patrick, ladies and gentlemen, and happy Christmas, everyone. Patrick, or as I call him, the voice of an angel, ladies and gentlemen. I love his singing. There's like the tourists walking when he was singing going, his karaoke bar's a bit shit, isn't it? What's happening? Love